I rolled my suitcase across the polished floor of our Denver headquarters after 3 days in Aspen. The first thing I noticed was the silence. People looked away too quickly. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. 2 coordinators stopped whispering the second I walked past. By the time I reached my desk, it felt like the entire floor already knew something I didn't. Then Serena Bishop appeared. Perfect as always. Cream suit, controlled smile, not a strand of hair out of place. She set a thick burgundy invitation on my keyboard like it was a gift. "You should come, Willa," she said lightly. "Grant and I are getting married next month." I looked down. Read the name once. Then again. Grant Keller. My husband. Wiggly. Quietly. For nearly 3 years. This wasn't confusion. She knew exactly what she was doing, placing it in front of me, watching for the reaction. I looked up and smiled. Congratulations. Because the one thing I wouldn't give her was a front row seat to my collapse. He walked away satisfied. I sat down, picked up my phone and called Grant. When he answered, I asked, calm and clear, "Are you getting married?" Pause. Then, "Yes." Just one word. And somehow that told me everything. 3 years earlier we had signed a marriage in a conference room. No flowers. No witnesses. No illusion. My mother's business was collapsing. The bank was closing in. We needed time we didn't have. Grant needed something else. A quiet, compliant marriage to satisfy pressure from his family and his company's governance rules. So we made a deal. 3 years. Private. Controlled. No interference in each other's lives. No expectations beyond the contract. And when the time came, we would walk away clean. It was simple. And simple felt safe. I never asked him for love. Never asked where he went, who he saw. Never pretended this was anything more than an arrangement. But there was one thing I expected. Respect at the end. Not warmth. Not kindness. Just dignity. Instead, he let Serena bring me the invitation. Let her say his name like it already belonged to her. Let me find out like I was an afterthought. That was the line. Not that he moved on. But that he let someone else define my place. I didn't go back to the condo that night. It had never felt like home anyway. I checked into a hotel near Union Station, dropped my suitcase by the bed and sat in the quiet. My phone face down. No distractions. No noise. Just the truth settling in. Then I opened my laptop. Pulled up the contingency folder I'd built years ago. The one I hoped I'd never need. And I understood something clearly. If he was willing to cross that line in public, I was done protecting him in private. I sent Serena's file to Owen Parker before midnight. Forwarded the expense records to Brooke Ellis. Owen handled compliance like a scalpel. Precise, quiet, impossible to mislead. Brooke could read numbers until they told the truth. I didn't need comfort. I needed facts. By the time the city outside my window went still, I wasn't looking at a wedding invitation anymore. I was looking at a beginning. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was waiting for proof. Owen called first thing the next morning. His voice was flat, the kind of calm that only comes after checking something twice. Serena had accessed internal project folders tied to our Boulder expansion. Not once. Multiple times. Bid summaries, vendor comparisons, files she had no business opening. I asked if he was sure. Then I checked the access logs myself. That was the moment she stopped looking careless and started looking intentional. Brooke brought the second piece. And hers hit harder. Numbers don't drift like that by accident. Serena's spending didn't match her salary. Not even close. Payments had moved through intermediary accounts. Quiet transfers brushing up against one of our supply contracts. Clean enough to avoid attention. Messy enough to matter. That's when this stopped being about an affair. Because people can hide relationships. But money always leaves a trail. Then Owen sent the audio. Original file. No edits. Timestamp intact. I played it once, sitting in the dim light with the curtains still closed. Serena's voice came first. Impatient. Asking how much longer Grant planned to keep the paper wife. Then Grant answered. Calm. Distant. Certain. When she pushed, suggesting they should just get married and put me in my place, he didn't hesitate. He agreed. That was it. Not betrayal. A plan. By noon, every file was with Madeline Pierce, the attorney who helped draft the agreement that was now being broken. She didn't offer comfort. She asked for facts. Metadata. Source files. Timestamps. The prenup. Everything that could hold up in court. When I told her they were planning a public wedding before our agreement expired, she went quiet for a beat. Then said, "Send it all." Untouched. An hour later she called back. No emotion. Just clarity. "This isn't about accusations," she said. "It's about position. A valid marriage. A breached agreement. Evidence tied to company misuse. Plea. Defensible. Unavoidable. If we moved carefully, Grant wouldn't just be answering for personal choices. He'd be answering for risk, deception, and misuse of company access. I told her to activate everything. Then stopped her when she asked if we should file immediately. Immediate wasn't enough. I didn't want quiet consequences. I wanted the truth to land where it actually mattered. Inside the room Grant believed he controlled. In front of the people who protected his power. Madeline understood without needing it explained. She said she'd prepare everything. Filings, notices, responses, but she'd wait for my signal. Before the day ended, Grant had me called into his office. He spoke like nothing had shifted. Like the wedding was just another event to manage. Then he said I needed to attend. As an employee. He let it sit there. And even he seemed to hear how wrong it sounded. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't argue. I just asked one question. Are you still within the terms of our agreement? That landed harder than anger would have. I saw it in the way his posture changed. In the pause he couldn't hide. Then I left. Because I already had what I needed. The next morning, Serena came to my desk like she owned the floor. Wedding binder tucked under her arm. Smile polished, confident. Certain. She started talking about logistics. Guest confirmations, gift coordination, seating charts. Then she added, almost casually, that my experience made me the obvious choice to help. I looked at the binder. Then at her. And understood exactly what she was doing. She wasn't just inviting me to the wedding. She was assigning me to serve it. I said yes so easily that the flicker in her eyes almost made me smile. She had expected a fight. She had already imagined enjoying it. Instead, I took the binder, opened it at my desk and found exactly what I needed. Guest list. Seating chart. Timeline. Presentation order. What Serena thought was humiliation was access. And once the schedule was in my hands, the ballroom stopped being her stage. That afternoon I cross-checked every name against what I already knew, separating influence from appearance, loyalty from obligation, power from noise. Grant's real audience was all there. Investors tied to legacy money. Board members who cared about governance. Partners who tolerated ambition, but never public embarrassment. Brooke sent another financial summary before I left. Same pattern. Same network. Serena's spending brushing up against vendor activity again. Not coincidence. Not anymore. Serena stopped by one last time before the day ended. 2 manicured fingers resting on my desk like she owned the space. Making progress? She asked. Everything's coming together beautifully, I said. Exactly what she wanted to hear. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. I saved you a very special seat. Of course she did. After she left, I closed the binder, bought a dark dress on my way back to the hotel, and felt something settle into place. I wasn't preparing to endure their wedding. I was preparing to end it. I arrived at the flagship hotel in downtown Denver almost an hour early. The dress I wore was simple. Controlled. It asked for nothing and revealed nothing. The ballroom was already glowing. Glass, florals, precision. The kind of elegance Grant used when he wanted power to look effortless. Owen stood near the technical station. He glanced at me once. I stepped close enough to speak without being heard. Is it ready? Your call, he said. Then looked away. Guests filled the room in waves. Investors first. Then board members. Then the orbit. People who gather wherever wealth performs itself in public. I stayed near the front. Quiet. Watching. Matching faces to influence. Confirming every key player had shown up. When Serena entered, the room shifted. White satin. Crystal light. A smile that assumed the night already belonged to her. She walked straight to me. Your seat's ready, she murmured. Front row. Center. Perfect placement. Cruel, if she understood what it meant. I sat exactly where she wanted. One ankle crossed over the other. Hand resting lightly inside my clutch. The small remote pressed against my palm. Grant appeared minutes later. Black suit. Controlled. Composed enough to fool most people. But when his eyes found mine and held a second too long, I knew. He wasn't calm. The lights dimmed. Music softened. Behind the floral arch the screen came alive. Their story. Carefully curated. Dinners. Trips. Laughter. Polished affection. A version of love designed to be believed. And the room believed it. Of course it did. That's what presentation is for. I let it build. Let the room settle into it. Let admiration take hold. Then, at the exact moment the illusion peaked, I pressed the button. The screen flickered. Once. The music cut. And just like that, the story vanished. Replaced by something raw. Unedited. Serena's voice hit the room first. Impatient. How much longer are you going to keep the paper wife? The silence that followed wasn't just quiet. It was shock. Grant's voice came next. Calm. Measured. I'll wait until the contract ends. Then Serena again, pushing, pressing. Why wait? Just marry me now. Put her in her place. By the time the recording reached his answer. Agreement quiet and unmistakable. The ballroom had gone completely still. Like even the air didn't want to move. I stood before anyone else found their voice. Stepped into the silence. And walked toward the stage while Serena remained frozen beneath the screen. The room had changed. Whatever warmth had filled it before was gone. What remained was attention, sharp, focused, waiting. I took the microphone from a staff member who didn't resist. Turned to the crowd. Let my eyes settle on Grant first. My name is Willa Foster, I said. My voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. And before anyone here applauds another second, you should know that Grant Keller is already legally married. Then I lifted my phone. The marriage certificate filled the screen. That one image did more damage than anything louder ever could. The reaction didn't explode, it fractured. Sharp inhales. Chairs shifting. Whispers cutting through the air like glass. Serena turned to Grant, searching for something, anything, that would fix it. Then she shook her head quickly. I didn't know, she said. I looked at her. Then why did we just hear you call me the paper wife? That was enough. Grant stepped forward, trying to contain it. A misunderstanding, he said. Even he heard how weak it sounded. One of the directors stood up immediately. Is that certificate authentic? Grant didn't answer right away. That hesitation did what anger couldn't. It broke him. Power can survive scandal. It doesn't survive doubt. I didn't flood the room with more evidence. I didn't need to. What you've seen, I said calmly, is only part of the truth. The rest will be handled through legal channels, contracts, and preserved evidence. It landed exactly where I wanted it. Not as an outburst. As inevitability. Grant looked at me differently then. Not like I was beneath him. Like he finally understood, I wasn't protecting him anymore. His mother had gone pale. Serena had already started to shrink inward. And the board members, they were already speaking without words. When Grant finally took the microphone again, his voice had changed. He confirmed the marriage. Cancelled the ceremony. And just like that, it was over. By the time I reached Madeline's office that afternoon, the chaos had already begun to settle into something far more useful. Structure. She filed preservation notices immediately. Locked down every piece of evidence. Moved the divorce forward with precision. The wedding had been dramatic. What came after was methodical. Timelines. Filings. Disclosures. Consequences that didn't fade when the music stopped. Grant was placed under internal review almost immediately. This time the board didn't shield him. Not with governance risk. Not with deception. Not with Serena's access trail sitting in plain view. Serena lost her position just as quickly. The spending records. The intermediary accounts. The unauthorized file access. There was nowhere left for her to stand. Owen remained exactly who he'd always been. Quiet. Precise. Unshakably correct. Every piece he handled held up clean. I went back to the office once more to collect my things. When Grant asked to see me, I went. No rush. No hesitation. Fear didn't serve me anymore. He looked tired. Not dramatically, just worn. The kind of exhaustion money doesn't fix. My lawyer will cooperate, he said. I only want what's fair, I replied. And for the first time that was true. When I walked out carrying that box, we both understood. The cleanest part wasn't the exposure. It was that everyone would finally pay their own cost. The divorce closed faster than I expected. Not because he changed. Because delay would have kept everything alive. Documents, evidence, truth, in places he couldn't control. I signed. Watched his name appear beside mine. Felt nothing dramatic. Just finished. When we stood to leave, he looked at me once. Will you be okay? I already am. And I meant it. I stayed with Brooke for a while. A quiet guest room. Clean sheets. Morning light that didn't carry history. We cooked. Reviewed plans for her new venture. Ordinary days. The kind that rebuild you without asking. A few weeks later she asked if I wanted in. Not as help. Not as recovery. As a partner. Something smaller. Cleaner. Ours. I said yes. Because it didn't feel like rescue. It felt like standing on my own without needing to prove anything. Owen joined us later. Same as always. Quiet. Exact. The first morning I sat at that new desk, I understood something clearly. I hadn't started over empty. Just honest. One morning I caught my reflection before work. No trace of the woman who had sat in that front row. No wait. No performance. I smiled. Because I didn't need to win anymore. I just needed to live free. Some endings don't take something from you. They return you to yourself. Steadier. Quieter. And finally your own.